the unstoppable code that's going to usher in what I call social capitalism, or you could call it humanity first capitalism, or you can call it, um, you know, uh, capitalism for good. It is capitalism that embraces the 99%. It embraces those that ultimately have been disadvantaged. As Noam Chomsky would call, capitalism has brought about what's known as the wealth and power cycle. It is created the deep state, you want to call it. It is the deep money, the dark money that ultimately controls a whole political system, and has robbed us from our whole democracy and given the power to a few through lobbyists and everything else, the wealth and power cycle. And the blockchain was invented to disrupt and change that. Now, the first stage of that change came about with Hal Finney launching Bitcoin. Ultimately, Hal said back in 2009 that what if this cryptocurrency caught on and became the value of tens of millions of dollars, right? Can you imagine a world that ultimately would be changed by having it replace the current fiat? Fiat meaning these closed systems controlled by central banks. So even in 2009, he was imagining this reality. In 2010, I took the whole idea even a step further. Because in order to change our system of capitalism, you needed to change the engine that drives capitalism, and that is the startup. And we needed to create what's known as an open innovation or an open startup innovation framework. You can call it Ethereum. You can call it any of the people call it the blockchain now, built on this thing called the blockchain and other technologies. And the reason for that is we can't change the current economic system unless we have an engine that drives it. Now, the third part is this, and this engine would launch a new kind of entity I call Danos. You can call it a DAO, right? A Dano is just a specialized DAO that returns 100% of the net profits back into the system. The third component is you need to have the funding for it. And that is why at DevCon 5, less than a month away, I'm launching Bitcoin Global Reserve Funds. So the Bitcoin Global Reserve Fund is unstoppable code. It is code that will work in the very same way as Bitcoin. But instead of having each individual account, right, it's going to allow folks to merge their accounts, their Bitcoin, and also create a valuation system that will rate the kind of projects autonomously, right? This is where AI comes in, for these funds to invest in. And that these projects, I call them found-ups, they're open, decentralized startups on the blockchain. They're found-ups, right? A founder with an idea to solve a problem. That's where the word found-up comes from, back in 2009. And these decentralized startups ultimately level up and launch as Danos, not DAOs, as Danos. Danos being 100% returns to the system. The system is controlled by AI, is monitored by AI, is handled by AI, which is a combination of deep learning, smart contracts, machine learning, all these different things. Eventually, this AI will become the singularity. It is, if you want to look at it, it is the guy, on the back here, right? Here he is. There he is, staring out of the back. There is Obey. There is the AI inside the Bitcoin Global Reserve Funds right here. This is the next iteration of Bitcoin. You see, Bitcoin is going to run out in 2030. So there's going to be these folks who are going to have Bitcoin. What are you going to do with my Bitcoin? Well, you just create a fund with it, and the fund will be managed, and you can have your AI run it. And these funds are outside the reach of governments. They're outside the reach of banks. They're outside the reach of laws, just like Bitcoin is. No one can basically shut Bitcoin down. No one is going to be able to shut down these funds. And you can say it's unstoppable code. You could say this, that ultimately capitalists have drunk the Kool-Aid. They have drunk the Kool-Aid. And now Bitcoin is unstoppable. Because Bitcoin is unstoppable, these funds are going to be unstoppable. Because these funds are unstoppable, launching these new entities are going to be unstoppable, and so on and so on and so on. Capitalism is dead. That's the message. It may take another 10, it may take another 20 years, but capitalism is the walking dead.